distinguished members present on the dais, the faculty members, the parents and the students. Very happy to be here on your 16th annual day celebrations. First of all, congratulations for celebrating 16 years of your existence. That's no mean achievement. I'm very happy to be here. As your chairman said, many of the students from this college are working in Cognizant. They've contributed to the success of the company. They have made Cognizant what it is today. So I'm thankful to them. More importantly, I'm even more thankful to the faculty of BIT who have created all those individuals who have contributed to our success. Most often, the work done by the faculty goes unnoticed. It's considered as the dharma of a teacher. The dharma of a teacher is to teach and create bright students without looking for any recognition, reward, etc. So they are fulfilling their dharma, and it's only appropriate that people like us fulfill our dharma. And I certainly want to acknowledge that I wouldn't be standing here today but for the work done by the faculty of BIT. Thank you very much. I came here this morning, spent some time in the college, visited the various departments. In fact, putting it in a humorous way, and in பொண்ணு பார்க்கலான்னு வந்தேன், அவர் கல்யாணமே முடிச்சு வச்சுட்டாரு இன்னைக்கு. Very impressed with all the activities that are going on in the college, particularly the experiments that are going on in the learning process, the classroom, the way the classroom is getting transformed. I was a happy witness to one such class that was going on in the semiconductor area. The topic was state level diagrams, and there was an interesting session that was going on. It's usually said, as students in India, there are only two occasions that we attend interviews. One is when we are 3 or 4 years old, when we want to join a school, when the teacher will interview us for an LKG or a UKG class. After that, there are no interviews until you finish your graduation, your engineering, when a company like us will come and interview. In between, you don't get you get an opportunity to get interviewed at all. It's promotion, somebody looks at your mark sheet, your aptitude test, and the admission is given, and you're asked to pay the fee, etc. So as a result, there is not much of an opportunity for people to communicate with their superiors, let alone with their peers. One such problem is attempted to be solved by this new way of training, learning, where each of the student gets an opportunity to present in the class to the rest of the people in the classroom. And two, a very important aspect is the peer level learning. You learn as much from your fellow students as you learn from your teacher. Extremely important, because different students are endowed with different capabilities, different interests, different passion, and if you know what each one's nerve cell is, you can tap that and use it for your learning, which is what happens in team dynamics when you work in a team. And that sharing is extremely important. I'll give you a simple story, a rather powerful story of a corn producer in the US. The agriculturalist, he produces corn. He has acres and acres of land. And every year there would be a competition as to who produces the maximum amount of quality corn. Literally hundreds of farmers will participate. And year after year, there's this one particular farmer who will always win the prize. He'll always produce more than the rest of the people. Highest corn producer. So people asked him, after winning so many first prizes every year, they asked him, what's the reason for your success? How come you are the top producer? He said, it is very simple. I distribute the seeds freely to all my neighbors and all the other people who are growing corn in this area. So that is very, very counterintuitive. If you want to win, you should have the best seed. That is given. But why do you go about distributing your best seeds to other farmers? and still they are not able to compete. He said there are only two reasons for it. One is, if I don't give them, if they have a low quality seed, if it is afflicted by any disease, if there are germs, because of winds and pollination, my crop could be affected. So I don't want to take that risk that some bad crop affects my crop. So I know my quality is good, I distribute it freely. Two, unless others learn and compete, there will not be overall growth. Overall knowledge base will not improve, which is the reason why I freely distribute and compete with them. It's exactly what happens in a classroom. You learn, you give to others, you compete, and the best in each of you comes out. That's exactly what this teaching-learning difference is. I'm glad some experimentation is going on. These examples, Charles Babbage and James Watt, these are people who could be considered as greatest of inventors. They invented something. And people like us, all of us here and the previous generations, have innovated from that invention and created so many benefits to common people, to society. In fact, there is a very, very light-hearted way of saying what is the difference between invention and innovation. Invention is something that happens in a lab, R&D, people experiment. You pour in money, you put cash, you get ideas. That's invention. Innovation is, you put ideas, you get cash. That's what innovation is about. So you have a seed of an idea, you innovate it in 1,000 million different ways to deliver benefits to society. All of you should remember this innovation equation. Innovation equation is very simple. Innovation equals to idea plus execution plus benefits. If it's just an idea, it's not an innovation. If it's an idea that's executed well, you produce something, it's not innovation. It's in fact a failed innovation. And the third one is benefits. If it delivers benefits, if it delivers value, then the cycle is complete and it's called innovation. Like the example that Sundar Raman was talking about. The invention or an idea that the students created in pre-call, which has been accepted by BMW and Daimler Trucks. I'm somewhat familiar with what happens with Daimler Trucks because the plant is in Chennai. They're constantly looking for these type of innovative ideas, just incremental ideas that could potentially save them a lakh of rupees, 10 lakhs of rupees, 20 lakhs of rupees, or make the driver and the cleaner's life easy. Innovations don't have to be, monumental innovations. Of course, those are welcome too. But then simple ideas that make a difference is what innovation story is all about. And the pre-call idea or the meter gauge idea is something, or the ideas like that is something that Daimler is constantly looking at. They set up a separate engineering center. They're looking for bright young people like you. People who have interest in innovating, in working on engineering design, in designing better parts, better machines, etc. Initially Daimler said, Daimler is known for world-class quality. That kind of quality cannot be produced anywhere else. German engineering is the most superior. None can match it. But the team in Chennai, Daimler, set up an engineering division, hired about a handful of engineers and demonstrated to the German parent company that fundamental and innovative engineering design can be carried out in India. After which now they've given permission for DICV, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles, to set up a full-fledged mechanical engineering design and automation unit and resource it with bright young people so that the research and the innovation that they come up with can be used globally. So that's the impact that all of you can make, and that impact is out of innovation, out of thinking differently. First of all, we need to think, question, challenge the status quo, and then think differently in order to come up with these type of innovations. Now, in today's context, innovation is relatively easy. Because there are a lot of tools that are available. Fundamentally, in any industry that you take, any industry, whether it's a retail industry, manufacturing industry, alternate energy industry, windmill industry, health sciences, biotechnology, the common underlying thread is information technology. Computers, computing power, and computing technology. No matter what you pursue, whether you become a fashion designer or a textile technologist, appreciation, understanding of information technology is extremely important. I'll tell you how it impacts other areas. I'm not saying that IT is the only way to go. No. IT is a key component of anything that you want to do in the future. Genomics, DNA sequencing, testing and splicing may be interesting for many of you to go and visit a site called 23andme.com, 23andme.com, started by the wife of one of the founders of Google. If you want your DNA sequencing done, you just send your saliva sample to them, they'll get it done for you and tell you. They can identify hereditary characteristics. They can do so many things because they're building a database. How is it possible? Purely because of information technology. So the point that I want to make is that's fundamental to all the areas of research, all the areas of innovation, all the production areas for the future. Conversance or competence in the information technology area is extremely important, immaterial of whatever you pursue. Having achieved that, what is the future of work? What does the future of work look like? Is it very different from the way we are working today? Is it simple? Is it complex? The simple answer is it is very, very different. It's extremely different. Different because of four aspects. Because of globalization. Globalization is simply you can get whatever you want from wherever the best product or service is available. You're no longer limited to your neighborhood, your town or your city. If BIT wants to run a fantastic ERP product to manage the campus, they have access to the best software in the world. It can be downloaded, bought from wherever it is produced. No restrictions. Likewise, your automobiles, your watches, your cell phones, anything and everything that you use day to day are the best because there is free movement of goods, free movement of capital, relatively free movement of people, free movement of currency, and that's what globalization is all about. That throws up tremendous amount of opportunities. And the second one is virtualization. Virtualization is essentially moving a piece of work away from its physical location and see if it's something that can be done from elsewhere. Example is the outsourcing industry. People sitting in India can provide customer service or customer care or answer calls about telephone bills of customers in Portugal or Switzerland or USA. Because the work that was to be done by individuals that could have been done only by them a few years back can be done by efficient people anywhere in the world. Very, very virtualized world. And that's applicable to so many different aspects. I'll give you one example, very powerful example of mining that happens in Australia. Australia is one of the fastest growing economies because plenty of natural resources, particularly coal mines.